let's bring in Mike Pritchard to talk some NFL. Corey, he used to play for the Falcons, the Broncos, and the Seahawks. He told me before, last time he was on, he almost was playing for the Steelers. He almost preferred the Steelers. But, so I'm excited to have you back on today. Of course, every time you come on, we got to talk some receiver props and futures. We got odds now for PointsBet on who's going to lead the NFL in receiving yards. Cooper Kupp, as we probably assumed, leads the NFL at plus 750. But Justin Jefferson, the biggest handle, following right up behind him. Who do you like, and who could break out this year in your mind?
Oh, man, great to be with you guys. Yeah, I sat across from Bill Cowher in his office, chin and everything, right? And I almost became a Steeler, man. The Steelers loved the Buffs back in the day when you think about Charles Johnson and Chad Brown. And Deion Figures, even too, from that national championship team. But the wide receiver position, to me, is a franchise position right now in the National Football League. I look for continuity, making a bet on this situation. Justin Jefferson is interesting because Clint Kubiak was the first-time offensive coordinator last year, and Jefferson put up some great numbers, right? I think with McConnell coming in and that West Coast scheme and the way that they want to run that offense with the 3 wide receiver set could open up Justin Jefferson a little bit more, like we saw with Cooper Kupp out there with the Rams. So I like him. I like Davante Adams too, fellas. I mean, I know it's a new team. I know it's a new coordinator, but the continuity aspect with him and D. Carr, who played together in college, they're eager to get out there on the field and showcase what both of those guys can do. So I'm looking for big things from Davante Adams as well. A sleeper pick, though, Mike Williams. You know, he was over 1,100 yards. He's got a big contract, and Justin Herbert is a 5,000-yard passer with the Chargers. So those are 3 names that I'm highlighting right now in terms of receiving yards in the National Football League coming up this year.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned Mike Williams. He's a guy not too far from where I'm at right now. Came up about 25 minutes from where I'm at right now in South Carolina. And big Mike Williams is the guy that can definitely get it done. And he can play, and like you said, Herbert definitely knows how to get him the football. On this list, Pritch, you have Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Davante Adams, Jamar Chase, and then you have Tyreek Hill at 15-1. And there's been a lot of discussion about, can Tua get Tyreek Hill the ball? Now, every time I see Tua, he's throwing to the flats. Right. That video where he underthrew him, and I think the guy who put the video on social media got fired. What do you think about Tua and Tyreek Hill? Is Tyreek Hill still going to be like a top fantasy guy, or do you think Tua makes his stats regress?
Oh, man, I think Tua is going to make his stats regress. His over-under receiving yards prop, I want to say, is right over 1,000 yards, 1,099. Now, imagine him with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, everybody would bet the over on that, right?
Oh
but with Tua, I mean, you're actually considering betting the under, even with that situation. I think we gotta add in this aspect when we're looking at Tyreek Hill right now and Tua. Like, Tua is not an air raid quarterback, and air raid quarterbacks, we want to think of Patrick Mahomes. We want to think of the Baker Mayfields or the Oklahoma Kyler Murrays, those type of quarterbacks in which they get outside the pocket and they want to throw the football deep. And so when you think about Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill, that's what we saw. Now we see Kansas City wanting to get back into a more precision-controlled passing attack, and that's why they've kind of evolved the wide receivers on that roster. Now, I think Miami wants to get to the air raid aspect of that offense, but I don't know if Tua can do that. I mean, Tyreek Hill is there for a number of years. We'll see what Tua is capable of. But I'm with you. If it's past 15 yards, he's going to be challenged. But run after the catch, I mean, you got to factor that in too. But I think it's going to be so difficult for Tua, who is a smaller statured quarterback, who's going to try to find Tyreek Hill on crossing routes through the line of scrimmage and throw down to him because Tyreek's smaller and shorter than Tua. It's different than when you have a taller quarterback like a Patrick Mahomes and a guy who can escape the pocket and make a big play that way too.
I think it's all going to be about the yak in Miami this year with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill.
Right.
I think that's very safe to say. So, I don't think they'll have to stretch the field too much. But speaking of Tyreek Hill, we're talking about him leaving the Chiefs. I think Travis Kelce at 15-1 could be worth a little bit of a wager as well, because I don't think Juju Smith-Schuster is going to come in right away and take over. He's still the king of TikTok. That's still a responsibility of his.
Right.
But the AFC West now is more wide open. Of course, the Raiders, they got Adams, like you said. Chargers still great. Broncos, Russell Wilson's in town now. Sierra has to go to Denver. Do you think it's time to fade the Chiefs?
I do. Everybody knows Eric Bieniemy, who's the offensive coordinator there for one more year. He signed a 1 more year contract. He's looking for a head coaching job, and I think he'll get one soon. A teammate of mine, actually a brother of mine, if you consider our relationship. And I just, the window to me is closing for the Chiefs. You can only keep that Super Bowl window open for so long. And it's been a tremendous run for that franchise. But Tyreek Hill no longer there. You're seeing this team make over themselves offensively and then defensively. Nobody's really talking about this. They have some issues and they're trying to correct them, but they're also trying to hide them. So I think we're going to see a regression from the Chiefs. And then within that division, I think you're going to see teams ascend like the Chargers. I'm looking for big things from them this year. The Broncos with Russell Wilson, looking for big things from the Broncos, as well as the Las Vegas Raiders, because of Chandler Jones on the defensive side. They drafted well on the defensive side, and now you have a regime coming in, Josh McDaniels and a new coaching staff that has a lot to prove. And I love those motivating factors when you're considering wagers in the National Football League.
Pritch, I think I may have heard it on VSiN, or maybe it was you or somebody was talking about Derek Carr is now the longest tenured quarterback in the AFC. And I was like, wow, that's crazy to think that. But when you look at the AFC this year, right, 7 teams can make the playoffs. So you have 4 division champions, and then I guess we have 3 teams from the AFC West, because that's what everybody seems to think is going to be. But I look at teams like the Patriots. I look at teams like the Cleveland Browns, after, we find out what the Watson situation is going to be. When you're handicapping the AFC, you mentioned Justin Herbert. Is this the year that the Chargers make the jump into the playoffs? Because if not, are we going to start hearing some of the criticisms about his game? Because everybody seems to love him, but I think he needs to make the playoffs this year, but that's going to be a tough division to do so in.
It really is. I think, you're a comfortable situation if you can win the AFC West division. I mean, that's everybody's goal anyway, to win a division. Certainly Denver's thinking that way with Russell Wilson. Herbert's interesting. I think Brandon Staley, their head coach, cost them some games, though. It wasn't always on Herbert. I mean, you throw the ball for 5,000 yards at the quarterback position, and now you kind of strengthen that position too with more experience. I think if Staley can get out the way with all his 4th down situations deep in his own territory, that'll help out that football team. I mean, they're talented. They got Khalil Mack now on defense too. So big things can happen for the Chargers. Watch out for them. But no, Derek Carr has not won a playoff game, and he is the most tenured quarterback, like you mentioned, in this division. And I'll give you this too, on his contract, the Raiders can actually get out of that thing prior to February, because the guaranteed money on his contract kicks in February. So if D. Carr stinks up the joint, then I think the Raiders can move on. So again, you have a quarterback in a situation with a lot to prove, with a comfortable teammate and Devontae Adams. So yeah, this division is going to be fired up. Everybody else is fired up in this division, but let's see what happens. I mean, I love competitive situations like this from a betting standpoint.
I like that a lot. I wanted to ask you, is there any teams you think have, maybe they're being undervalued? No one's really they're sleeping on these teams right now. You think it'd be a long shot? They have maybe an easier path to their division conference championship or winning their division in general. Anybody on your mind?
You know what? The Minnesota Vikings. Yeah. The Vikings keep coming into my mind in terms of a team that, in that division. I mean, we're asking for the Packers to not be the Packers anymore. And I think defensively, the Packers are going to be strong. Offensively, we'll see what happens. I mean, we still got Aaron Rodgers. They got 3 years in a row where they won 13 games. You know, that's hard to do. They didn't get to a Super Bowl doing that either. So the Vikings are there. They were in a number of close games last year. I know from a standpoint of a new head coach, that's always going to turn off some bettors. You know, you want to kind of see what's going on with that franchise. But you have a quarterback that's been there for a while. You have tremendous playmaking ability on the offensive side of the ball. If you can correct the defense too, I think we can see the Vikings be consistent and ascend a little bit. I don't know if they'll compete for the division, but certainly an opportunity to make the playoffs later on this year.
No, they open up. I believe they open up with Green Bay right off the start of the season. Yeah. So they may be able to get them and get one. And then they split with Green Bay last year. They played kind of Green Bay weather just as good as some of the other teams in that division. Right. I'm gonna come back to the AFC because I think it's such a fascinating conference to look at this year with all the quarterback movement and stuff like that. And I want to zero in on the Indianapolis Colts. Mm-hmm. We saw them say, okay, well, we're going to bring in Phil Rivers and put it back together. And then you know, it didn't really work out. They went to the playoffs, didn't really work out. Then last year, they went to Carson Wentz in what should have been a perfect situation. And then we found out that he was ambidextrous. So that didn't really work out too well for them. But now I'm looking at a situation with Matt Ryan, and I'm like, wow, you know what? Matt Ryan, he's still got some game. They got a good offensive line. They got a good running game. Maybe the Colts are a team that we could see possibly in the AFC Championship game this year. What's your thoughts on the Indianapolis Colts coming into the season?
I love the Colts. I do. And I'm glad you highlighted them because I want to say they're 12-1, if I can recall correctly, in terms of the AFC Conference Championship. And you think about that team, and I love the ownership too. Like, people clown on Irsay sometimes, but Irsay will speak his mind. Like, when he cut Peyton Manning, he says, I'm done with the Star Wars stats. I want Super Bowls. And he cut Peyton Manning, right? You know, you think about Carson Wentz coming in there. Obviously, Frank Wright wanted him, and he didn't work out for a lot of reasons. And Irsay was like, nope, I'm done with that guy. I know we gave up a lot, but we're not going to win a Super Bowl. We can't even beat Jacksonville in the playoffs to get to the playoffs. So bring in Matt Ryan, a quarterback that started in a Super Bowl. And then the other sneaky good move, I think, was bringing in a quarterback like Foles, who knows the system, but has also started in a Super Bowl. So name me a quarterback room in the history of the National Football League, really, that's had two quarterbacks that started in a Super Bowl. And the impact of that type of leadership that you could have on your team. I think the quarterback room is strengthened tremendously. And again, okay, the skill set of Nick Foles, I get that. But I'm talking about the fact that the man started a Super Bowl and won a Super Bowl against Tom Brady. And so that brings an element of confidence, as well as Matt Ryan, who should have beat Tom Brady but didn't. And also a motivating factor too. So I think that type of leadership on that roster is something that they missed last year with Carson Wentz.
Yeah, it's really all they've been searching for these past couple of years since Andrew Luck's been gone. The quarterback to turn around. They've had the defense, some of the playmakers and everything. So I do like that look a lot. So we got the Colts, the Vikings, a couple wide receiver markets, and we're finally fading the Chiefs. The Super Bowl window's closing. So if you like everything you heard from Mike, follow him on Twitter at @Pritchard. And you can also go on VSiN on Betting Across America as well. Mike, we appreciate you bringing all the good expertise.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys. Good luck with all your bets, for sure.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for all the latest fantasy and sports betting advice from NBC Sports Edge. And don't forget to sign up for NBC Sports Edge Plus to get the best-in-class draft guides, as well as season-long fantasy, DFS, and sports betting tools that will give you the edge.